Hi everyone, my name is Tiziana D'Agostino. I'm a design educator in San Diego, California, and a UX psychologist consultant. And today I'm going to have a presentation on integrating AI in the classroom. I gave this presentation at the 2025 UCDA Design Education Summit in May 2025. But because it was a live event, I've been asked to record my presentation for the educator that were not able to attend live. And this is exactly what I'm doing. Now, even though this presentation is geared mainly to educator and design educator, I also believe that it could be helpful for anyone that wanted to learn AI and does not know where to start. So with that said, I hope you enjoy the presentation. This presentation is about making AI work in the design classroom. I provide a framework for critical thinking and ethical use that served me really well in my classroom. The presentations have three parts. The first part talks about why it's so important to teach students AI literacy and why we need to not fear AI, but actually embrace it. The second part will actually explain the framework, and it will show you how to integrate AI tools into your regular design curriculum. And the third part, it will be a practical example of the framework in which students actually use different AI tools to create a really good project. So let's get started. Integrating AI in design classroom is necessary because students will use, and they are already using AI tool, whether we like it or not. Also, remember that trying to stop them or even detect that they're using AI tools sometimes is impossible. So it's a time waster and a futile activity. Instead, I believe AI literacy is the solution to this problem. Now, believe it or not, some students are actually really scared by AI, or they feel very overwhelmed because they feel it's too technical, too difficult. So when I begin my lessons on AI, I usually trying to kind of break the tension and break the ice with a joke or with something that make them understand that AI is not a monster there to take all their jobs, but it can be an actual assistant. But regardless how you feel about AI, we have to understand we are in the age of the machine. AI is absolutely everywhere. Prediction machine has been around for many years. Anytime Netflix suggests you what to watch, that's an algorithm in action. However, with generative AI and with more and more AI tools, the situation is a little bit different, especially because we hear all the time that those programs will become not just smart, but also intelligent. There is a big hype about this, but it's important that we separate a hype from the reality, and we show that to our student. I love this quote from Clark Sturlaw, that talks about any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. While he wrote it in 1973, it's still very, very real and very actual. In fact, if you look at any software, any program that has some kind of AI feature, you will notice that most of the time they're called magic, or they have the little sprinkles, the little stars, to again underline that this is magic. But AI is not magic at all. In fact, it's not even so intelligent, at least now. First of all, is extremely biased. It amplifies and perpetuated all the biases that are found in his data set. The data set is usually based in United States or at least other Western countries. So it's obviously a very, very limited set of information. And I'm not even mentioning the whole copyright problems with that, but that means that there are a lot of bias. Also, AI hallucinate. Even now in May 2025, it generates false information in non-existing sources very confidently. Also, It's not really innovative in the sense that it simply recombine, maybe in a novel way, but recombine patterns that exist already. So it can't really create something brand new that's never done before. Regardless, there are three fundamental truths you have to remember. One, AI is here to stay, and there is no going back, no matter how much you wish you could. And you need to learn those technology to stay relevant and to teach your student to stay relevant. Two, students will use it, if not already using it, and it will be really difficult to tell. So we can't just believe everything that we see. But the third point I feel matters even more. So human skill like imperfection, empathy, intuition, and predictability will be more valued than ever. Because AI can do a lot of things, but there are tasks that I believe will remain uniquely human. And I'm talking about pure creativity, leadership, ethical thinking, real empathy, real craftsmanship, the passion of hand create something, and of course, critical thinking. Most of all, we don't want to forget about the real human touch that we really, really crave. And I'm talking about both physical and metaphorically. One final characteristic that is purely human, at least for now, is flexibility and adaptability. We can change on the fly if we notice that the context changes. However, AI cannot do that right now. It still need help to understand the context. It doesn't have gut feelings. It doesn't have intuitions. So this is a characteristic that makes us pretty human and also very, very adaptable. So hopefully I convince you that AI literacy is really important. So let's move on to see what is this framework. This framework is just a roadmap, something that's needed to ensure optimal use of those AI tools on the part of the student. There are only 6 simple parts to guarantee that. And we're trying as educators to distinguish the good, the bad, and the ugly of these AI tools and explain them to their student while engaging their critical thinking skills. The framework, as you notice, is built on top of core design skill. I believe design students need to learn those basic skills. They need to know how to draw. They need to know how to sketch. They need to know how to lay out pages and so on. But once those core design skills are acquired, then you can start adding some AI literacy. The framework is divided in 6 sections. First, we start talking about the basics of AI as it is right now. We talk about the promises that he offers, as well as the possible harms and current harms. We talk about how to use AI ethically. We look at tools that exist right now, and we take a peek at the future, at least what we think in the future will happen. This framework is very easy to adapt to your needs. That means it can be expanded or compressed depending on how much time you have. You could even have a whole class about AI literacy that apply to not just design students, but to any students. So let's look at those steps a little bit more in detail. So step 1 is understand the basic of AI. There are so many terms and jargon and acronyms that throw around that students a lot of time are very confused. Words like AGI, ML, LLM, DL, generative AI, algorithm, neural network, all those can be really, really confusing. So we're trying to distinguish each other, all those different terms, and trying to understand how they relate to each other. If time allows, I also like to talk a little bit about the history of AI development and basically who the pioneers are and who are the important people right now. And I try to include everyone, even voices that usually are overlooked, like, for example, women or minorities. And I talked about the big names that are developing the model. So those are not the product, but who's developing the actual model. So there are quite a few, but the most important one, in my opinion, is Google Gemini, OpenAI ChatGPT, Anthropic Claude, and DeepSeek. And DeepSeek is kind of the newest kid on the block. It's come from China, and we still don't know too much about it, but it's something you can definitely try. Now, it's important for students to understand who's developing it, because that will teach them what is the motivation behind their releases and their building those models. All those companies are for profit. So their number one priority is profit. And this can actually be in conflict with some of the ethical issue we'll mention. The second steps, we're talking about the AI promises, because AI has so much potential. AI could compensate for all human limitation. It could even help us achieve every one of the UN sustainable goals. Those advanced technology can improve the lives of millions and millions of people around the world. And even now, we already see companies working with AI to solve climate change, healthcare, inclusion, accessibility, poverty, and many, many, many other ones. So we make a lot of examples. I have the student research that and find more company, and it's always great when we find those really positive solutions. But we also need to talk about AI harms. Most of the time, when you talk about what could possibly go wrong with AI, most people fear there's going to be something like Terminator, right? It will become so intelligent that the machine decide to destroy us all. Now, this is an hypothetical future that probably will not happen. But the reason a lot of time all this fear mongering happen is because it will distract us by the harms the AI is already doing. First of all, we mentioned already biases, but also power imbalance, because AI system amplify these biases and therefore can create really unequal situation. AI decide already who's getting a loan, who can buy a house, who's getting suspected, who's getting arrested, and so on. So those are really, really crucial problems that are already happening and we need to curb right now. Also, of course, there are environmental costs. Training this model requires huge processing power and a lot of water to keep all those servers cool. So that is an environmental cost, is quite substantial. Also, every single query, from creating an image to asking something to ChatGPT, will actually have some environmental cost, more or less depending on the query and how long you've been in there. And this is another thing we talk about it with the student, to ask themselves if the environmental cost is worth using AI. And finally, privacy and safety. Those are kind of another big category in which AI can create significant harm, and already is. For example, facial recognition is already used by many law enforcement agencies, and not just for catching the bad guy. It has been used before for surveilling protesters and other individuals like that. So we also need to be aware of those particular issues. Step number 4, though, brings back the positive of how can we use AI ethically, right? So we start out with basic question. What do we value as individual? Who can be hurt, even in the long run? How are we shifting power? Are we transparent in our application of those AI techniques? And many, many other questions. And we talk about how impact is greater than intent, which means even if the intent was not bad, was not negative, if the consequences are really negative, that's crucial to understand. If you think about social media, for example, I don't want to believe that it was created on purpose to ruin the mental health for teenagers, or creating this huge, attention society. I really want to believe that the intent was good, but the consequences in the long run actually turn out to be very negative. So we need to make sure we think about the future and what kind of impact is going to have. Fortunately, many companies are thinking about it and producing different type of guideline or corporate rules, and most of them are public. So you can take a look at it, like, for example, IDEO or the AI Ethics Lab, Humane Tech, even Google. So, which is really important, because we need a lot more governance regarding AI, both from companies, but also from government, because we can't trust AI companies to regulate themselves. Remember, they're for profit, so that's their main motivation. So just to kind of sum it up, if you want to use AI ethically, you have to think about the impact, and especially focusing on transparency, accountability, fairness, and privacy. In step number 5, we finally talk about fun stuff, right? How to use AI. So we start out with prompt engineering, because right now it's still the best way to communicate with AI. There are a lot of different frameworks, like for example, the CARE framework for Nielsen Norman Group, or the master method, and there are a few others. But bottom line, we play around and practice how we can actually write a prompt that will get us the result that we want. We also analyze successful prompt and image generation, for example, to see how they were able to obtain these results. We also talk about the current tools that we can use, not just for image generation, but for all kinds of tasks, from research to brainstorming to artifact creation, and so on. And we also look at how to create your own custom GPT, almost like an intern that will help you achieve a particular goals, and how to use other people custom GPT that are already available. And finally, in this phase, we talk about human AI interaction. Human AI interaction is something so new that there's really not much study about it, but it's important to ask what is the emotion and psychological impact on individuals and society when we have those many tools. How behavior changes because of those. We need new mental models. It's so new that most people don't have a mental model about those tools. So it's important that we start looking at those. And finally, the 6th step is a future outlook. We look at the current discussions that are happening right now. In 2025, we talked about techno-optimism, tech oligarchy, sycophancy, dystopia, or utopias, any of those discussions that you can see in the space right now. We also talking, at least today, about deep reasoning and AGI. We wonder if this is really reasoning or just faking it. And also we're talking about if an artificial general intelligence is really what we want. Not necessarily if it's possible or not, because it's more important to ask yourself, do we really want this technology before figure it out if we can or not? And finally, I like to ask them about their wishes and dreams. What type of AI future they want to create and live in. And those are really interesting conversations. This is probably my favorite step in the whole framework. So once they have this very strong foundation and they play with some of the tools, they had experience on using it, then I have them work on a more complex project. And the example I'm going to show, it is a very good example of how you can use AI tool to enhance your creativity instead of having AI do all the work. So the project that I'm going to be talking about is a project that was given in Interaction Design 3 at the New School of Architecture and Design in San Diego. And the assignment was very broad. I simply asked them to come up with an interactive solution to help solve a problem or solve any pain points for the target group that included people 65 and up. So I left it broad on purpose because I want to make sure that they were really open to try even crazy ideas, right? Now, as far as the milestone are pretty simple and similar to any other assignment you've probably seen, with one big difference. The only step in which they were required not to use AI and actually do it in person, it was step number 1, the interview moment. So they were actually asked to go talk to real people in that target group and trying to gather from them what kind of problem they could solve. All the other steps they could have done with the help of AI tools as long as they describe the process. So the project I'm going to show is called T-Tech Talk, and was trying to solve the pain point of social isolation and loneliness in older people, and especially in the subcategory of low income. The student that produced this is Noah Ragas, and he's a graphic design and interactive media student. So his idea was to create a bus that will be offer a membership service, and it will pick up the members at their house, and it will take them, for example, in a beautiful park or in a really nice location. This bus, however, will be different from a regular bus. It will have like very comfortable seating. It will have tables. It will have refreshment like tea or coffee, but it also would have a bunch of devices like laptop and phones and iPads and so on, and technology expert to help the senior with any technological issue they may have, or to teach them short technology classes. So this particular service will help not just to lessen the social isolation of senior, but also teach them new skills that are really important in today's society. So after he interviewed people in the right group, he came up with this idea about how to do something for social isolation, bringing senior together. And with the assistance of a couple of different AI tools, he was able to develop more fully this idea. After he had a kind of very strong concept, he start, again, with the help of AI, start planning the different phases for this project, including how long it would take, as well as an estimated cost for that particular step and what it will include. He also used AI to help create a logo based on a color scheme and choose font. And finally, he also started developing and brainstorming ideas for marketing this particular service. Now, the final product was a presentation to all his classmates about this idea and explaining the purpose and the plan and so on. One thing I really enjoy about this project, beside the fact that it's a very creative one, is also the fact that he spent a lot of time creating images. They're incredibly consistent. And in fact, more often than not, he had to take some of those images and bring it in Photoshop and kind of like trying to make them even more cohesive. I was particularly impressed by this image that actually has elements from his project, like a bus and tea and technology and so on. So it makes it look really somewhat realistic. So at the end of the presentation, he discussed what kind of tools he used and how he found it that they help his process. Interestingly, some of his classmates did not find AI tools as helpful, and so they decided to do things more traditionally. And this was really the fun part of this project, to hear everybody experience and how they dealt with using this new technology. So to sum it up, I believe that AI is here to stay, and the students are already using it and will be using it more and more. Also, it's important that we help students to separate the hype from reality. We also need to teach them that human skill and critical thinking are essential more than ever. And it's our job to show them the good, but also the bad and the ugly of AI and how it can go wrong. Because with the right guidance, AI can be used very ethically and enhance and not replace the creativity. So I encourage you to embrace and don't rage against the machine. Don't ban AI. Get familiar with it. Start learning it and be a model for your student on how to use it ethically. I usually close my class on AI with this quote from 2020 by Anne-Marie Grisogono that says, "We are rushing into a future that we can barely imagine, but we need to look ahead with as much clarity as we can muster, embrace the present opportunity we have to shape the trajectory, and use it to face the risk." I love it because I feel is even more appropriate today than it was in 2020. And because it gives everybody hope that we still have time to influence the course. And we can make changes if we see a development that we don't like. And this is what I hope all my students will get from this class, that while AI tools are amazing, they can also have really serious negative impact. And it's up to all of us to try to stop this particular trend. And with that, I will thank you. And this is how you can reach me if you want to. And I hope you learned something from this presentation. Till next time.